So now today we are in conversation with Kanika Sinha, who is the convener of the organization Community, which is a youth collective of NGOs based out of Delhi, with more than 130 youth across 20 states who have come together with a common mission of creating and empowering spaces for a young lot from all sectors of the society and unleashing their leadership potential. And the ecosystem is almost 100 organizations strong. And during this time of pandemic, they have reached to more than 11,000 families. Thank you, Kanika, for joining us.
Thanks, Devyani.
So,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, so I would really like to know the kind of organizations that come under your collective umbrella, and I believe you're not just catering to one, direction of donation and charity. I believe you are catering to addressing a lot of different issues from mental health to providing people with dry rations. So, could you run us through that?
So ComMutiny in the Youth Collective, as you said, it's a collective of several youth-led and youth-engaging organizations. So these are many of them who started off as young social entrepreneurs, also connected with us through their journey as young, as they ventured into the space of active citizenship, and then together we formed this collective because the sense really was that together we're better, together we're stronger. Collectively, there's more to be done, greater impact as well as greater learning, and nothing like also just having like-minded people around yourself, and building your own community, that really strengthens you in your work. So that's sort of why we're all together. And as you said, with the belief that what we need today is empowering spaces for young people, because we need to see young people taking the lead in every sphere of life. So our work as part of this collective is, to nurture active citizenship among young people. And the kind of young people that we work with is quite diverse, because our members are all over 17 different states, working in different contexts, and working with different kinds of young people. So youth is not a homogeneous category. Urban, rural, tribal, LGBTQ, religious minorities, young people, really from every kind of sort of demography. So many of their issues are peculiar and very unique to their own context, but also some issues are very similar across young people. The issue of identity, the issue of leadership, of having a voice, having agency, feeling responsibility, wanting to make a change, and trying to sort of discover the leadership to be able to do that. So that's the kind of atmosphere or environment we are trying to create for young people. And at the moment, with reference to what you were talking about, is the organizations members of this collective have immediately responded, like many other individuals, organizations, anyone associated with so many people associated with civil society have responded to this immediate crisis that has emerged as a result of COVID. So COVID in itself, as a health crisis, but the resultant impact of the lockdowns and all, as you know, has led to further marginalization, really, of a large number of people. And in that process, what members from our collective have been doing is, of course, responding to that immediate need of hunger. So working with daily wagers, with migrant communities, as you said, providing dry rations, looking after immediate health needs, and in that process have reached out to thousands of families across the country. Many members are doing this, and there's different sort of categories of people they have reached out to. So as I said, migrant workers, daily wagers, yes, but also people from the transgender community, people from the sex workers community. So many people have been impacted. And the wonderful thing in the collective is that they have a really deep and diverse reach. And so that the attempt is to try and prevent as much further marginalization as is possible at the moment. So yes, that's what's been going on among us. So this is sorry, specifically with regards to food distribution, but you also touched upon the other aspects of work that we've been involved in, our members really have been involved in. And so I keep repeating that 100 plus organizations are part of this collective, and all of these organizations of their own independent capacity, in their own independent capacity, of their own accord, have really gone out to make this difference. Another big issue that one is seeing, other than hunger, is also just advocacy for the need to advocate for rights and dignity of migrant workers and daily wagers. So while there is uh, a lot of outreach and support coming in to provide food and things like that, the fact is that these are people who have worked and have been able to look after themselves through their own hard work and earned for their families and looked after them, and are now in a position where they have to receive whatever people are willing to give them. And so, of course, psychologically also that's a big sort of downer. And so, dignity and rights of migrant workers, of daily wages, that's something that the collective organizations have been, trying to work on. Mental health is a big area of concern that is emerging, especially in the context of young people. Anxiety, depression, confusion, isolation, so many issues that are that young people are grappling with. Also, just being at home for long hours, being away from peers, sometimes being in very difficult family situations, that not having an outlet. All of these are also really causes for concern. And so many of our member organizations have been creating safe listening spaces for young people to be able to come in, express themselves, find other peers who may be going through similar challenges, and also have, sort of a mentoring kind of engagement to be able to feel more supported. um, we also have members who are trying to, and sorry, similar listening spaces also for professionals. So there is also a lot of, for youth workers, for NGO workers, again a lot of anxiety around future of their work, also just the current experiences that may be causing stress and worry. So also listening spaces for youth workers and for professionals. um, we have a member who's been working on, and we've also initiated something on addressing this whole issue of polarization and hatred, which we see comes up every any crisis or non-crisis in the country, and you see immediately how hatred and bigotry and polarization just kind of takes over everything. And we saw it happen even now during the COVID crisis with people from particular religion being labeled, and attacks on people. And so even issues and concerns like that need addressing. There are campaigns that are going on with young people on them. Yeah, that's the kind of work that's been going on.
Right. So, when you say that social and systematic transformation cannot happen without personal transformation, as quoted, how do you cater to the situations to achieve this? And please walk me through the numbers.
So this whole idea, when we say, so ComMutiny, the word ComMutiny is a
Yeah.
play on the word community and mutiny, and where the byline is that the first mutiny is within. So it refers to that first mutiny that a young person goes through as they start working in communities, and this process of self-transformation starts happening as they try and transform communities. So self and social transformation are something that are interconnected, and they happen together. And there is a need to do both. There is a need certainly to it's the phrase, be the change you want to see. Gandhiji's famous quote that before we step out to try and change the world, we have to also equip ourselves and build capacities within ourselves to be able to be self-aware and resilient and re-examine our own value systems and re-examine the position that we hold in the world and what we aspire to do with the world then. So that's really what self and social transformation is about. Um, Over the years, we are, uh, like I said, this collective of organizations, about 130 plus actually, working with every year maybe over a lakh young people in different capacities. So we have common programs and campaigns together, but all of these organizations are wonderful organizations working directly in communities with young people. And so as a collective, we probably have a reach of about a lakh a year, and we're working through about maybe 1,000 youth workers. So I think, and I keep bringing youth worker up because I think there's a critical sort of piece. They're a very significant piece in this whole world of youth-centric development, where
Absolutely.
youth-centric development doesn't just happen on its own, but you do need someone to play that role of a youth worker, of a mentor, who will co-lead and co-design and co-own these spaces with young people.
So, what all have you provided these 11,000 families with right now, and how do you intend to address the issues that are prevailing along with this time of pandemic? What are the things that you have provided these families with, and how many times have they approached you? How often you visit these families again?
So Devyani, this will vary. As I said, these are a very large number of organizations who are doing this individually in the communities, and so trying to address very specific needs of communities, but also based on the resources that they have available to them. They're not all, many organizations have put in, many leaders of these organizations have put in personal money, have set aside money from their own general reserves. This is not necessarily money that they had any support for at least in the early weeks when they had immediately started responding. So they were addressing very specific and immediate urgent needs, which were typically, dry ration kits have, some are just dry ration kits, some are health and hygiene kits. So you have, the typical rice and atta and dal and masalas and oil. Some will have tea leaves, and those that will also provide hygiene material like soap and sanitary pads. That has varied. So I can't say that it's not like we've had a consistent kind of kit that every organization
Mhm.
has given out.
Okay.
And what the number of times that they've gone out again has varied because uh, to start with, no one knew how long this will go on. No one knew how long one would have to provide this for. So to start with, as resources permitted, you try to reach out to as many number of families for either a period of 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever was possible at that point. And slowly one is seeing things unfold, and you're seeing that the need hasn't reduced, it's only increased. So you are going back to the families you may have provided for in the early weeks, but you also have to provide for new families, for larger number of people now, for many migrant workers who are coming back to their villages,
Yeah.
but there still aren't any jobs.
So how do
So
you ensure a health and economic stability of these families? Like we know that these people are trapped in a state of fragility and in the protracted crisis. So more especially, they are the only ones who are vulnerable, who can be seen more vulnerable to this pandemic. So how are you ensuring their economic stability, a certain economic stability that we talk about?
To be honest, at the moment, Devyani, I don't know if anyone is specifically being able to address economic stability. Part of it, as I said, comes from advocacy. It
Yeah.
comes from, you know, uh, speaking with the government, speaking with people who need to make these policies and who need to implement these policies. So, for example, there was an announcement in Assam that the government
Mhm.
has made, which is that every daily wage worker that comes back to the state will get a job card, and they will, under NREGA, they will get their day's employment by working in their own households. It's a wonderful scheme. Apparently, it exists from before, but implementation has always been a problem. So, as civil society, one of our roles is to be aware, bring awareness about these schemes, as well as advocate with the government and ensure there is better implementation of it. That's one way of doing it. The other is in smaller capacities is trying to build and encourage and nurture entrepreneurial skills and capacities among people. So an example I can share with you of one of our members, Kanika. They work in Delhi with sex workers on GP Road, whose, of course, daily income has been affected badly. And they're now, they've learned how to make masks, and they're actually taking orders in very large numbers to provide masks to institutions, and that becomes their day's work. So there's small efforts like that which start out as small, but the hope is that they can provide some economic stability, as you're saying. But I think that's a longer sort of fight, if I can say that. There's much more to be done there. Ultimately, we've got to be talking about resilience, and resilience comes with many things. It comes with feeling well physically, feeling well mentally, and feeling capacitated to be able to deal with whatever's coming your way, feeling and also just having some of these sort of capacities and skills of entrepreneurship, as well as awareness and understanding of where to access your rights and entitlements from, and how you can make that happen. So focus ahead will also be on building resilience and within communities.
We got an opportunity to get in touch with, I believe, one of your organizations, Ye Soch, which comes under your collective, and they are doing a great deal of work. See, we could understand the measure as to what to what extent people are going in order to extend their helping hands to these people. So I'd especially like you to run us through Farm to Food Foundation, which is based out of Assam. As I believe you have reached out to more than 2,500 extremely vulnerable families, which is only 0.2% of the total vulnerable population there.
So at the moment, so Farm to Food is an organization based out of Jorhat in Assam, and that's an area that has a lot of tea gardens. A lot of and they primarily work with adolescents, young people and adolescents in schools and out of schools there on different life skills, building life skills capacities. Again, as a natural instinct, you may work with adolescents, but when any kind of crisis happens, when you try and reach out to them, you will naturally go to their families and find out where they are, how they are. And many of the adolescents who they used to work with belonged to families of tea garden workers, who are all daily wage employees. As I understand, and I happen to get some of this knowledge through a conversation recently, is in a tea garden, typically only 30% of the employees are contract on some kind of a contract. The rest are daily wage laborers. So the company takes no real responsibility for the rest of them. So 70% of those who stay on these tea gardens live there, but they have no one really is taking any kind of responsibility for either their health or nutrition, food, or anything like that. So when they're not working, they really have to fend for themselves, even though they're on this estate. Farm to Food, in their capacity, reached out to, as you said, over 2,500 of these families, providing ration kits. And also because they work with adolescents, they, provided some sort of learning material and things like that in their kits for adolescents at home, to be able to just, feel a little bit less anxious, maybe. What was what happened during the course of their engagement in these tea estates is that they went looking for the adolescents they had worked with just in the previous term, school term, and weren't able to find many of them. And they realized that many of those adolescents were had become vulnerable to trafficking and child marriage, because parents were so poorly off that they actually sold off their children for money because they had lost their income. And with the help of the district government, the district administration, and the state government, they were able to prevent serious cases of trafficking. And I say this because I think that helps us to really see what the tragic reality of this entire situation is, where parents are forced into selling their children because they've lost their source of income. So yeah, that's a story from Assam. That
So how your organizations reach out to these and identify these individuals and communities that they work with? How do they build trust in the field?
So this isn't recent. All of these organizations are
Mhm.
organizations that have been working for many years in these
Yeah.
communities. So actually have a good rapport. They've been going in, and a relationship of trust is built over time, and I guess comes from the very credible and impactful work that they are doing. So community members recognize them, welcome them, and have them. Uh, uh, you know, see them as people who are there to support them. So, but yeah, that happens over a period of time, over many years of working together, and other partnerships in other partnerships that already exist in the communities help, relationships help. So yeah, things like that.
So I believe organizations like yours have really consistently and extensively worked in empowering spaces for this young lot and even the people who are suffering due to this outbreak. Thank you, Ms. Kanika, for joining us, and we would hope to work with you soon in future and get to know more stories your organization will be bringing up. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Devyani. Thanks a lot.